Fair warning, this is going to be a little bit of a ramble. And this is something that's hard for me to talk about. But the reason why I have a YouTube channel is because of another YouTuber by the name of PW Swivel. And I knew him by his first name, Dave. And maybe you've heard of him or knew me from his channel. Oftentimes when I bring him up, somebody comments like they remembered him, whatever happened to PW Swivel. I met him back in like late 2012, and he was really made really good videos. They're still up, and I got to commenting on his videos, and I guess he just got used to the common rabble of retards, whether they were on his side or against him, and enjoyed having conversation with me. So it went from just comments to emails to eventually I got his phone number, and we'd talk for hours about religion and atheism and skepticism. And he kept telling me make a channel, and I'm like, I don't want to make a channel, dude. It seems like just too much work, and I don't want to be stressed out and worried about growing and shit. He's like, no, just make a channel. I'm like, well, I only have this phone, and back then I had a much shittier phone than I have now. Like, I mostly use my phone, which is stupid because he wanted me to make a channel so bad that he insisted I get a laptop. And I was like, well, I could get one, but I don't want to spend my disposable income on that right now. And I don't know. I'm not so sure about this whole channel thing. Guy sends me $200 cash in the mail, and I was like, well, now I gotta go get the laptop now. And I made this channel and helped him make a couple of videos, and he was always really nice to me and shit, and we talked forever. He told me about the reason why he became an atheist. This is a pretty interesting story. He was a former police officer, and he'd worked a long time in criminal justice. He was a police officer. He eventually became an internal affairs officer, whatever. Basically, every cop's least favorite cop. And that's why the last couple of videos he made were about Black Lives Matter and shit, because he felt responsible for having to talk about that. Even though he doesn't speak as a police officer, that was the experience he was using to make those. And he told me the reason why he became an atheist is because when he was a correctional officer before he retired, he worked on the cell block with this one child murderer. Is this guy? I'd seen the Forensic Files episode about this murder, so I knew exactly who he was talking about. This guy had walked into a church and just grabbed a 6-year-old girl from this big church party and just kidnapped her, raped her, strangled her, and just like left her in a dumpster. And I was like, what God would allow that to happen in a church to a little girl like that? And that was what pushed him over the edge from the I'm an agnostic, whatever, to full-blown atheist. And that's when he had become interested in all this shit late in life. And I knew him by his first name, Dave. And I talked to him for hours and hours for a period of about 6 or 7 months at least. And he was a very private guy, didn't really give any personal details. He'd talk about his family, but never, no names or anything specific. I only never knew that he lived in Minnesota. But at one point he just dropped off the map and just didn't exist for 2 years, and he'd stopped taking phone calls, didn't answer emails or text messages. So I thought, dude just must have got in a car accident and died, or had a heart attack or whatever, just dropped off the face of the earth. And these things happen until one day, just out of the blue, just phone call, and it's him. And he had told me that he had been diagnosed with cancer, and he just dropped everything and just focused on his family, got his affairs in order and shit, got on chemotherapy, made a will, all that shit, took it very, very seriously. And he just said he had to stop everything else. And I understood that completely. There was no fucking logical reason to take that shit personally. And, I got back to talk in touch with him for a little while, and he made 2 more videos about Black Lives Matter, and then he dropped off the face of the earth again about, I think it was around December or so of last year. And I was like, oh no, man, I don't even know. Maybe the same thoughts, heart attack, fucking just dropped off and died. And I just sort of made my peace with that, that the same way I made my peace the last time. It was just shit, man. I knew him and yet I didn't know him. He was my really close friend, and yet it was more of just sort of a semi-professional relationship. And I'm sorry for getting so long to it, but here's the real tearjerker. So about 2 weeks ago, I get a call from his number, and I answer and I go hello, and I just knew before anybody said anything, but the voice spoke was a woman, and I just knew, I knew right then. And she's like, "Hello, is this Darren?" And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." And she's like, "Hi, this is I don't even remember what her name was. It was probably something like Carla or something." And I think I didn't even remember if she said he was wife or daughter. It was one of those, and I didn't even remember because I was sort of like in that somewhat shock moment, but not really shock. And is just calling to tell you that he passed away on the 12th. I think he died on the 12th of July. And she said she was just going through her phone and just calling his contacts and letting them know. And I was the stranger to her, so I just sort of explained that I knew him professionally through YouTube, and he'd offered me a lot of support, and I talked to him a lot. You know, I didn't know much about him personally because he was a very private guy, but he was nothing but good to me, and he had a great positive benefit on my life, and I'm very grateful to have known him. And she's like, "Oh, that's very nice," and I'm like, "Yeah, so you know, my condolences, and thank you very much for calling me." Because I guess that was, you know, the only thing I could really be hurt about is that he never said goodbye either time. You know, he just sort of disappeared. But I don't, you know, when he got back in touch with me, when I guess his cancer was, he was doing a lot better with it. I don't think he was in remission. And he said he wanted to tell me he was sorry, and I'm like, "You have nothing to be sorry about. You understand that, like, you don't owe me anything, and you don't even owe me an explanation. Like, as much as I cared about you and do care about you, it's like this is the relationship we have is kind of professional, even though that's sort of the wrong word for it, but there's not a good word for it. And I don't want you to be sorry, and I'm really grateful for everything you did for me, but like." You don't owe me anything. If anything, I owe you. Like I said, the guy sent me $200. Was super supportive. Was a good friend of mine during kind of a period of my life where I didn't know that many people, and didn't, you know, I don't, I don't know exactly how to describe it. It's just that he was the only kind of person I could really talk to about these kind of this, you know, atheism thing, and probably the only person I knew who was like smart enough to discuss this stuff. I know, you know, I have a couple of smart friends, but they're arrogant assholes and not always fun to discuss things with. But God, we could just talk forever. And I'm really sorry that he didn't really get a chance to explode. He was getting a lot of traction right as he sort of fell off the earth, and you know, got up to like 2,500 subs. His videos are still out there, and they're really really good. And shit, you know, that hit kind of close to home because, you know, as an atheist, I don't believe Dave is somewhere looking down on me and proud of me or whatever. Now Dave is worm food, dude. Dave is dead, and you know, he only lives on in memory of him from the people who knew him, his family and shit. And it's always a heavy thing, mortality, when you're an atheist, and especially when it's someone you care about and you know don't want to just fucking disappear or die or both. And that shit sucks. Um, so shit, man. I don't have like a good wrap up or a good conclusion. I just wanted people to know that he was a fucking great guy, and whatever enjoyment you get out of me is, you know, thanks in part to him. And sometimes I feel like I let him down because I don't. I know all the tricks to get more subs, and I don't take them, and I don't want to. And he was hitting all those marks and doing it right. And he once told me he was envious of my ability to just ramble like this for 10 minutes without repeating myself, not too many ums and ahs, and I can be coherent and have a concise train of thought. And he's like, I work hard on these scripts, and I have to work really hard on editing and shit. And it's like, I envy your ability to just rant. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, that's not what it takes to succeed. You got a gimmick, you got great video editing, you got all this rendered shit, and fucking you're all put together, audio and video and shit. And I don't have the drive to that. And I think I would hate doing YouTube if I tried really hard and didn't take off. So there's somewhat of an ego protection, as a vulnerable admission, that part of why I don't try so hard is because I don't want to succeed. Or try so hard and not succeed, I should say. But I also have a small amount of pride in not feeling like I have to chase stories and fucking report on hot button shit, and I don't use any clickbait, and I only ever say what I want to say when I say it, and I mean what I say every single fucking time. And I've never tried hard to get subs, like I knew Armored Skeptic when he had 50 subs, or I think it was actually 67 subs, so I was number 68, and he'd made 2 videos. And if you look at some of my earliest shit, he comments on them and responds to my comments and shit. And eventually, as he should, he blew the fuck up because he was doing everything right to succeed and putting all the work into it, and with the intention of working full-time off of YouTube, and he does. And more power to him. And it's not like I knew him. The guy I knew was PW Swivel. But, one time he offered to shout me out. Armored Skeptic, when he was just starting to gain some traction, was starting to get those like 10, 20 sub a day type things, where he's starting to hit that growth period past 1,000. He's like, oh, I'll shout you out. And I was like, no, don't, dude. I don't work hard enough to get shout outs. And every single time anybody's ever offered me a shout out, I've said, don't. You can if you want to, but I don't work for it, and I don't even necessarily want that. The only thing I've ever asked anybody for, I've never asked for a like, I've never asked for a subscribe, hit the subscribe button, I've asked for comments. I love interacting with people. And that's probably why I made this channel, is to interact with people. And I've made a lot of good friends on YouTube, and a couple of enemies, and fucking... That's what I get out of this. I love going on fucking these low rent, shitty wannabe DP podcasts and shit. And I love gossiping and talking with people. And that's what I get out of this. Is a little supplement to my social life, And shit, I still think he'd be proud of me anyways. It's the funny thing is he's not a judgmental guy, Dave. Shit, dude. I'm so not cohesive, not coherent, losing my train of thought. Too many ums and ahs. But, shit, I'm more choked up about it now than I was when I got the call. And I was wondering, dude, is it weird that I'm not sad and not tearing up? It's because I'd already known, and I'd already, been awake at night, and, one of the many things that keeps a person awake at night or something would always come up, dude, I wonder if he's dead. I bet he's dead. He wouldn't have told me anyways, And it was almost worse getting the call than not getting the call, but it was good to get that closure. And shit, I guess to what few people knew him and shit, this is breaking the news. PW Swivel is dead, and I'm rambling like a retard. And shit, I guess I'll just part with, if any of you guys ever owned that Tool album, Anima, from 1996, and if you look at the cover art in there, Bill Hicks is pictured as a doctor, and I'm sure you guys at least know the comedian Bill Hicks, and he's fucking administering to Maynard James Keenan, who's being depicted as a hydroencephalitic retard, and just giving this really disapproving glance, and captioned over Bill Hicks is "Another Dead Hero." I think that's probably why my avatar is Bill Hicks right now. Shit, man. It's like Carlin, Hicks, PW Swivel in his own small way, David Bowie, another dead hero. Take that for what you will. Thanks for watching.